Hey bunnies, welcome to kind of the first update video for the game. This is the kind of cool little concepts, cool little programming things that we've done since you last saw us on the Game Development Diary. First up, we have the goblins, which we've renamed to guests. This is for lore reasons, and also goblins didn't really fit the character anymore. So first up, things we've added to the goblins. They have now got a random movement setting. Every so often, they'll rotate around and they'll move. This is just a little thing to spice up the environment. Life to the enemy, so you don't kind of think that he's just standing there doing nothing. He's just a static character. Now, if we walk towards this character and we uncrouch, there we go. He's noticed me. He's running towards me. Now, an important thing to note, when he hits me, he slows me down for a little bit. This is important because if there's two of the guests chasing you, there's a good chance you're going to be hit twice. And that's where these things get scary. Now, obviously, we still have the light, which they run away from. Unfortunately, there's no hitbox on here. I think it's just a trigger, which is why they run straight out of the map. But in the actual game, they will hit the wall and bounce off it and look back around after they hit a wall. They can kill the player if they hit me enough, and that's it for the guest, basically. There's a little bit of stuff where guests go together, but I won't really spoil that because it might be a little bit of a spoiler. Next up, we have the new enemy on the block called a Paros. Now, I might change the name. It's not calling out to me just yet. I like the concept of the character, and I think that it does really well in the type of game that I'm making. I had a bit of problem with the Paris code. I had to fix that up before we started because I changed a few things before I started this video. Back to where we were. This Paros, very big, much bigger than the goblins in fact. And instead of the goblins, almost the exact opposite of the goblins, is that instead of running away when you shine your light on it, it runs towards you. Now, obviously it also hits you and slows you down. For some reason they're all running through. I think that might be a bug. I gotta fix that. Although this isn't the scenery that we're using, this is just a placeholder. But that's the point. So you shoot him with the light, he runs at you instead of away from you. He runs straight forward. He looks at you and runs straight forward. So if I shine my light on him, but there, see? He turns, he attacks. If you move away fast enough after you shine your light on him, you can run away. This is good for if you accidentally hit him with the light. There will also be moments, I believe, he will chase you for other things other than just light, but that's, at the moment, the big thing. We also have something else added, an object. And objects are going to be a thing that's going to be useful. I'm probably not going to put them into the pre-alpha that I will put on Itch.io as like a testing ground. If you also want to support the project, make sure that you're watching my YouTube content and make sure that you're following me on Twitch because ad revenue is a thing, and also you can donate with a subscription on Twitch or what money that goes directly to me is the stream elements. All of the money from that goes directly to me. Subscription, it's like half, I believe. So yeah, this object is called, at the moment, it's called a Bluetooth stereo. I'm sure you can figure out what that is, but basically it plays a sound. And when I start the game, I walk towards it, you hear music playing. Obviously that'll be a different song, different tune. It'll be more like a noise than a song. But if I shine my light at this guy, he gets trapped when he hears the music. He stops moving. And that's going to be important. It's going to be a good way to trap these creatures. Something that I think I want to do is have like a battery pack attached to like a time limit that it's allowed to play music for, essentially. So you can't just continuously use it as a trap. Not that it will be that much of a hindrance to the actual gameplay, but I just want it to be a little bit harder, a little bit scarier having this thing coming at you. Oh, there is one more object that we need to show you before all that goes down. We'll spawn our guest back in. Their name is still Goblin, but in the actual subtitles they're called guests, and the controls they're called guests. See, it gets very hard when we've got the guest moving. I would probably want to hide that. There we go. So it hit me, but as you saw, it deleted the guest. So that's a thing. Any enemy in the path of this charging bull will get demolished along with everything else, so you can actually use it as a fighting tool to get rid of things if they're in your way. Now, I think I want to make it so that the Paris has a charging bull effect, where after he hits a wall, he'll be stunned for a little bit and then turn around, and rather than have it so he's just stopped after that, I think I want him to turn around and charge again, and maybe charge like 2 or 3 times before he chills out. Something else that's important, a code box. Now, this is important for 1. No, you know what? I think it's just 1, but that's going to be a problem in the future. So you see at the top left, that's going to change the UI for that. That's just for testing purposes, but the UI just went green for that. If I click E on it, which I think that'll change as well, it adds the code to the game, basically. Basically, this will be it'll look like a aesthetically pleasing QR code type situation. And what happens is that'll be attached to something else, which I will talk about very soon. And it'll be, so you might look at it and think that's just a note collector, and yes, but it'll also give you certain tools. Basically, it'll allow you to use the Bluetooth speaker. There will be other tools that'll also let you use, like a fairy lights type situation, a Bluetooth like fairy light or like spotlight, which essentially will act as another light source that will attract or scare enemies. So that's important. There are obviously UI elements that you've been noticing around the place. So there's a tutorial kind of system. It's for lore. It's for just environmental, like telling the story of the place so you know what's happening. Obviously, you can read that it starts off with where am I? A basement. Why can't I remember what happened? I'll change that a little bit. And then the second line, which happens at a different time, but because the phone is directly in front of me, says, is that my phone? I can pick it up with E. So if I'm looking at the phone and I'm close enough to the phone, I can click E, it'll pick up the phone, and then it'll go, hey, primary mouse button will toggle the torch on. So that's a thing. The reason I had the phone to be picked up is because I wanted to teach the phone and the picking up items mechanic at the same time. So the phone UI it'll start explaining the phone UI after it tells you how to turn on your torch. I also think I want a power system, but I want the batteries to recharge over time. So you can run out of batteries for your torch. Your player will turn it off so it will charge. So you can't just hold your light over every enemy. I know I think I might have actually said during one of the game design videos that annoys me when you have to pick up batteries all the time. And I know that this kind of feels a similar vein because there is a maximum limit, but I do want to say that I think it will make, specifically when they're light-based attacks, it'll essentially act as an ammo rather than as like just an annoying hindrance, because you're essentially using your light as a weapon. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy that, and it's not too annoying. I don't remember when I did add a menu. I know I added a menu. I've figured out that you can actually have text with shadows added. They're like effects, which means that it looks a little bit prettier. I don't know if I'm going to change that to fit with like a overall UI at the moment, but I just like that so far. So I can quit the game, and we have a little main menu intro sequence. I might change it up a little bit so it looks prettier. I'm not sure I'm going to keep it so far, but it just kind of goes, hey, this is this cool little map, and there's the guests roaming around while you're playing around with stuff like settings. The guests just roam around. Now, settings is an important thing. I don't think I added settings during the thing, but we have a master volume, which I will obviously replace with master sound effects, music, dialogue, I think will be the options for volume. Now, this actually changes things. It actually goes up while you're doing it. And for sound effects, I'll have it play a sound. Hopefully that'll work. Mouse sensitivity, I keep mine on 0.3. It's essentially a 360-degree turn if I move my mouse from the middle of the mouse pad to the end of the mouse pad. Game frames per second and main menu frames per second, I have them defaulting at 120 and 30, I believe, but I might change that. And we've also got the head bobbing. We added a head bobbing tool during the YouTube series. You can actually just turn it off because I know head bobbing annoys a lot of people, There is a certain amount of head bobbing that I use, if you didn't notice. You're breathing at the moment, and it's the exact same move as head bobbing with a slower movement speed. I hope it translates to breathing. I might actually make it like a smaller area that it moves and make it a slower movement, so it's kind of, it doesn't feel like you're just bobbing up and down kind of thing. But yeah, so those are all the settings at the moment. Just stuff to come, essentially. We're going to be adding a third enemy, and the enemy is going to be used for crowd controlling the player. Basically, we want the player to push them back. I don't want the player to continuously move forward. Essentially, I want the player to be able to be chased into areas. And currently, with our 2 characters we have, there's no point. Like the light just kind of, you can shoot the light at the guests. You can shoot the light at the Paris to run the Paris forward so he doesn't chase you on the other side. And essentially, we want a third enemy that'll crowd control the player mostly without fighting. I think that you will use the light to slow it down so you can run away. Otherwise, it will just kill you straight up. And basically, it'll run down whatever place it is, just chasing you until a time limit where it chills out for a bit, I guess. Another thing to come probably before the pre alpha, but technically the game is functional as it is, so maybe it won't be added till I want the game released. But basically, I want a UI for the phone interface. So the phone you pick up, it's obviously an item that you can just pick up, and it teaches you how to pick up items, but the phone interface is going to be very useful. So obviously those QR codes that you can scan, they have lore in them, and those little lore codes will reflect basically photos of text messages between the main character and other characters that they know and have interacted with. This is to kind of tell you why the character's in the place that they are, and I think it's a good way to kind of tell a story without specifically saying things, having like text messages and photos to kind of indicate that something is going on. It also will download things like Bluetooth connection for the speaker that we talked about and the fairy lights we talked about. Now, something about that I really enjoy is I want the phone to have a limited data storage. So you have to delete certain things to pick up a certain amount of objects, essentially. Because I think one of the big things about horror that a lot of people kind of forgotten about is that a lot of the big horror games, the important horror games in like the history of gaming, this fear comes from not having enough resources to deal with the problem. Managing resources is a big thing with horror games to make you scared that you don't have enough to keep going. And so having the phone interface and having that data storage system where like, oh, I have to collect these things to win the game, but I don't have enough storage, so I'm going to have to delete the Bluetooth speaker app to make sure that I have enough space to continue saving files to keep going and that kind of thing. And I think that'll be a good way to kind of, the further you go in the game, it's going to get harder, and also you're going to have to delete things that made it easier. So it's going to be harder and harder and harder until it gets to a point where you're fighting for your life at all points. And I think I like that. I think that makes it a very scary game, and I think that makes it a good horror. That's the thing. There's a lot of lore. When making this game, the first thing I worked on before the mechanics was lore. There was like pages and pages of stuff written about characters, about the creatures, about the overall narrative, and there's so much, and I don't want to show you any of it, basically. All of the lore is essentially just for me, and then there are little tidbits of information for you to put things together yourself. And if you don't put it together the right way, there's a good chance you're going to get the wrong result, which I like. I think it's a good way to confuse people a little bit. Yeah, there's a bit of gushing at the end there, but that's the things that I've added. I could have showed you the new boss mechanics, but they look the same. It's more under the hood kind of. Is that the saying? I think so. It's the engine. It's not the visuals, so you won't be actually noticing anything different. So thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bunny out. Oh, and please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on twitch.tv/EqicBunny with a Q instead of a P. And consider subscribing on Twitch and donating on Twitch to continue helping this game function. It really helps out a lot. At the moment, I am jobless. I'm trying to find a job. Obviously, if I find a job, I'll be working on the game less. I'll be working on YouTube videos less. So the more money I can make from that, the more I can kind of be okay enough to continue working on the game and on the YouTube videos. So yeah, if you enjoyed it, please consider doing that to help us out. Okay, see you in the next one. Bunny out.